Today, what I'm going to share about is about how we can enjoy the work that we do. And I think in the past, I used to always show up for work, because I need to bring back the income. And for the recent years, right, I've already moved on from that kind of mindset, and I didn't want to, work or show up for work just because I had to bring home a paycheck. And the reason is because I've realized that, it really doesn't bring any joy to my life just to, show up for work because I have to bring in a paycheck. And so recently also, because I have quite a bit of clients having issues with claims, they also have some issues with their policies, and that also got me questioning, how can I really enjoy that part of serving my clients? I personally feel that service is really, really one of the most important things, and it has to be handled well in order for clients to really feel assured and to have the trust that that they are well taken care of. And if I put myself in their shoes, I also really would want to be treated well, want to be serviced well. And so for me, I'm always somebody who always puts service as the main priority. But for the many years that I'm in this industry, people always focus on bringing in revenue more than service. There are people who are saying that, you're wasting your time, you're not managing your time well because you're not bringing in the revenue. But I personally believe that revenue only comes in after you do your work properly, and every single detail of your work is really, really important. So it got me thinking, what are the attributes that we need to have in order to have the heart to serve. So knowing this term, the heart to serve, it's easy to say, right? But then when you really think about it, right, what does it mean to have the heart to serve, or how do I have the heart to serve? So I started looking up, I started reading. I also read my Bible, and then I started realizing that there's actually 3 attributes to developing the heart to serve. In order to have the heart to serve, the very first thing is that we need to have patience. What it means is to have the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, problems, or suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious. So what really stood up for me when I read this whole definition, right, is the part about being able to accept delays and not becoming annoyed or anxious. So when I saw this 2 words, annoyed and anxious, right, I was like, wow, because I'm somebody who's very easily annoyed, and I'm also someone who's very easily anxious. And when I saw this definition, I started to understand why it was so hard for me at times to really just show up and to serve others, because I get easily anxious and I get easily annoyed. And I think knowing this definition really shifted the whole perspective of being patient, and having the heart to serve. The second attributes that we need to have is to be obedient. Okay, so obedience to me is something I used to feel like obedience is just listening on, just listen to your parents, whatever your boss say or whoever say, just listen on, right? That is being obedient, right? You listen and then you go into it. So I look up the definition, and it is compliance with an order, request, or law, or submission to another's authority. Okay, so when I saw this definition, right, what stood up to me was submission to another's authority. So when I look back, right, I realized I'm somebody who is from young, I'm already somebody who's very rebellious. So I like to go against people's instructions. So if let's say my parents say do this and then I don't feel like doing it, I will just not do it and I'll do something else. And I think from young it has always been like that. I always like to do something else. My parents say this, then I don't want to do this, I'll do something else. And then usually if I don't want to do certain things, I'll just argue my way through. Yeah, so when I was younger, my parents always say like, I'm always arguing, you know, like they can tell me one thing, but I can argue back like 10 sentences back, that kind of thing. So I think that, you know, brought forward into like my working career, adulthood. Yeah, even in my marriage, I only recently learned how to say yes to my husband, even though at times I really don't like saying yes. You know, in the past I feel that you should just speak up for yourself, right? If you don't want, then you just should just speak up, right? But recently I realized that, you know, being obedient, saying yes doesn't mean that you are losing your voice, but it's more of showing respect to your husband, to your boss, or to the higher authorities. And when you know, like submit yourself and you say yes to the authorities or to your husband, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means that you're showing respect. Yeah, and I feel it's the same when it comes to our work. When we serve a certain group of people, you know, like in my case, I serve my clients. There are definitely times where I don't agree with the things that they do or the things that they say, but I feel it is important for me to just really listen to them and yeah, just agree to disagree. But it doesn't have to be in a point where it has to come to a quarrel or yeah. And I think that is really one of the important things that I have to learn to have the heart to serve. And the third thing is to be humble. So being humble is something that I think we all feel that we know what is it about. And in the Asian context, right, being humble means that you don't brag, right? You don't be proud, you know, you don't basically they will just say you don't hao lian lah, okay? That is just being humble, right? But when I look up the dictionary, okay, the definition is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's importance, okay, and cause someone to feel less important or proud. Apart from just not bragging, right, which I think humility is not just about not bragging, not being proud, but I think the most important thing that stood out for me is that it's to really have a low estimate of one's importance. So when I reflect and I look back at the things that I do sometimes, right, I tend to want to take credit for a lot of things. And I think that also definitely stems from like my upbringing, okay? But yeah, so I realized that, you know, every single time when I do something, I will want people to know that I do something. Yeah, and in that way, that is not really bragging, but it's more of like taking credit and like trying to make myself feel like I'm more important than anything else. Well, because when you start to put people first, when you start to, it takes a lot of humility to put others before yourself. And what I'm not saying that you shouldn't love yourself, you shouldn't care for yourself. I feel self-love, it's really, really important and we should have self-love. But in the midst of, you know, when we are in the community, when we are in our job, we should always focus outwards. And the only way to focus outwards and focus on the group of people that you need to serve is to have humility, is to put them first before you. Yeah, so that is what I feel in order to nurture the heart to serve. These are the three things that we need to work on, which is patience, obedience, and humility. Yeah, so yes, I think that's all I have to share today. And if you have any comments on what I've just shared, or you also can relate to what I just shared, you know, feel free to leave a comment below. And also don't forget to like and subscribe my